An extra border security step has begun for travellers to Europe, and it affects all British passport holders.
This is an important bit of the biometric process where the technology captures a photograph of you.
But the EU's new entry-exit system comes with the warning to expect more delays while going through passport control. So what does it mean for you when you're next heading to Europe on plane, train, boat or tunnel?
What got me by surprise, I think, really, was that I was expecting the biometrics, but there are 4 questions, and I think it would be better if people knew and we told them now.
I'm Sally Biddulph, and this is what you need to know. Well, Choi is our consumer editor, and he joins me now. Chris, lovely to see you. What is this and how does it work?
Yeah, just what we need, another level of red tape when we're travelling. And on top of all the other concerns about delays and lost luggage, there is now this to bear in mind. It is called the EU EES, the entry-exit system. Generally, it's a way of the EU keeping tabs on us, because remember, we're not in their club anymore, we're outsiders, and all outsiders have to go through these new checks, and there'll be new kiosks that you'll see gradually coming into play, and you'll have to put information in, and it's biometric information.
New.
I know. Big kind of technical sounding term. It's pretty simple, really, because all you need is what you take anyway. Your passport, which has got a biometric chip in it, your face, and your fingertips. And these new terminals that you'll see dotted around departure points have a little screen for you to put your fingers on. They've got a camera to capture facial recognition, and you slide in your biometric passport. Sounds simple so far, doesn't it?
But you do this ahead of time, or you just do it when you're at the airport and you do it as a one-off, or multiple times? How does it work?
You don't need to do anything in advance, and importantly, it's free. Now, whether it'll be trouble-free, we might come on to that, but certainly financially it is free. But you don't have to do anything in advance. You just turn up in the usual way. You'll be directed to a special area where you'll see signs about the EES. And what's interesting is the first time you do it is called the registration phase, and that takes a little bit longer. You've got to go through the whole system. In future, when you're going in and out of the EU bloc that's affected by all of this, it's simplified. So there'll just be one biometric check and your passport. That's likely to be your physog. Your face will increasingly become your passport. You can see a whole kind of agenda here that everything's becoming digital on international travel, and in the end we'll just waft through with all this facial recognition, I'm sure.
That would be so much easier than we have now, isn't it? But I mean, in terms of how long it takes to put your hands in, recognise your face, you've been through the process.
Yeah.
How long did it take to begin with? And if you do it again, presumably it's much quicker because it's already remembered your data.
Precisely, it should be much quicker. And it took me about 3 minutes. There were some hiccups. Some I think I was responsible for by overthinking it, because as well as the biometrics, and I think this is useful for people to know, there are 4 questions that I wasn't really expecting. I thought it was all going to be biometric. Fingerprints wasn't really a problem. You do have to adjust your hand a little bit. It tells you how to, but if you've got big hands like me, you can often find that it needs several takes, because it can do maybe 3 fingers in one pass and then perhaps take another one in another pass. That can take time. The worst thing for me was taking the photograph, because it looked like the machine wasn't used to somebody of my height, over 6 foot, and it took me about 3 minutes. It had to retake the photo. I had to redo the fingerprints. Perhaps if that hadn't happened, it would have been quicker. But what I have in my mind is, can you imagine doing all of that surrounded by screaming kids, loads of luggage?
Absolutely, 200 people from a plane back.
Absolutely, trying to keep eyes on departure boards and all that kind of thing. It's fine doing it in the controlled circumstances that I did, but in the real world, there's another layer of potential chaos for your average traveller.
So these machines that take the biometric data, how are they different from the e-gates for the passports? Because it sounds quite similar.
Absolutely, and I think it's one of the misconceptions, really, that this is all one system, because, of course, they're both biometric, they're both relatively new, and travellers are seeing this technology gradually being built up in airports and docks, etc. They are separate systems, and actually there's a whole controversy about whether UK citizens can use the e-gates going forward, and it varies according to your destination. So that's a whole different kettle of fish, but they are separate systems.
Now, Chris, you've spoken to someone who's so concerned about this that they've actually delayed their travel plans.
I spoke to Ian Gratt, who he wants to go to Europe imminently. He's going to delay things and go at the quietest possible time, hoping that there won't be chaos, there won't be delays, that being a quiet time, there'll be fewer people going through the process. Here's what he told us.
You know, I've seen the machines all lined up, but nothing telling me how to work them. And I got this feeling of coming off a plane with 200 more people, and they're all trying to get this all done.
You can understand why he's concerned.
He's got a point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think many people will feel anxious about this because the waits at passport control can be hours.
Absolutely.
And it's the last thing you want when you've got off a plane.
Yeah.
This rollout has already started.
Yeah.
How has it gone?
We started on October the 12th, a Sunday. It's gone very smoothly so far, but that's because of the way it's now being done. This system, by the way, has been discussed for years and years and years and years, and the original plan was kind of a big bang. It's all going to start at once. But over a period of negotiation, they have watered that down. So implementation is going to be very gradual. It's happening in phases.
Okay, so it's staged.
Absolutely. So, for example, Prague and one of the Madrid airports were that first weekend. Gradually, it'll build up. At Dover, it's not people in their cars at the moment. It's freight drivers and people on coaches. But we're learning already about this process. It's only been going for a matter of days, but people find it quite difficult, for example, at Dover, because they've got to get out of their vehicle to do all of this. Same with the freight drivers. They're actually doing it in a physically different place that's removed from the main terminal, an area called the Western Docks. So there's a lot of new stuff. And it's all very well, I keep thinking, talking about all this in the cold light of day. But you know what it's like when you're travelling sometimes at really antisocial hours, and the whole thing fills you with the prospect of a lot of inconvenience. And what I think makes people anxious is the last time you want to be wasting time is on holiday. That's when your time is really, really valuable. So what we've got is this very long implementation period between now and April the 10th. That means it will be on, all systems go, in time for the Easter break, which will be a big test for it. And then, of course, the big summer peak getaway. Already we've got October half term, which will be a partial test of the system. But at the moment, because the EU doesn't need to fully implement until next year, if there are any problems, any delays, they can just switch it off. So they're doing it in dribs and drabs. Hopefully that's a way that we'll all get used to the system, as well as the system really bedding in. There is that wriggle room.
So you mentioned there's a couple of airports there that are already doing it, but which countries does this affect? Because it sounds as though it's pretty much pan-European.
Exactly. If only it were so simple. Is anything to do with the EU that simple? So it is the EU, but not all of the EU, because Ireland and Cyprus aren't involved. And then we've got 3 countries that aren't part of the EU, but are part of this system. And they are Iceland, Norway, and Switzerland. This is because it's actually not about the EU per se, it's about the Schengen area, which is this international travel agreement, and certain countries opt in and others opt out. We're firmly out, which is why at the moment, as you travel, you may see EU fellow travellers sailing by through the e-gates. They'll be in the bar, on the beach, potentially whilst we're still faffing around with all of this.
But going to Ireland or to Cyprus, you're fine. You don't need to do anything.
Absolutely fine. It's still the old system. And eventually, I think this could be a quicker way of travelling, because it's going to replace the old passport stamping. At the moment, what I think a lot of travellers from the UK will find frustrating is that it's a double system. So it's possible you have to go through this new biometric, EES, and then still get your passport stamped. So for a while, as it's been fully implemented, there could be that twin tracking going on. Eventually, hopefully, we'll be sailing through and it'll be the future of travel.
But from April next year, that's
from April
when
the 10th.
all of us are going to have to do it.
There's no escape from this. We've got to do it. And what kind of got me by surprise, I think, really, was that I was expecting the biometrics, because that is quite well known. But there are 4 questions.
Yeah, what were those questions?
And I wasn't really prepared for the questions. And I think it would be better if people knew and we told them now. So first of all, the terminal is going to say to you, have you got a return ticket? Okay, that takes a bit of time to think about it. Not everybody does have a return ticket. You know, they're on a flexible travel plan. Next question, can you pay for your trip? I mean, again, I'm thinking, well, I don't know. Depends how much I spend whilst I'm away. Who knows? Many times my budgets have crashed whilst I've been overseas.
That's happened to many of us. One too many meals out.
Absolutely. Third question, do you have medical insurance? I thought that was a bit of a sneaky one because it's actually not mandatory to have health insurance. So whose business is it to ask whether I've got medical insurance? Nevertheless, they ask it. And the fourth question, where will you be staying? Again, I'm thinking, well, is this the end of spontaneous travel? Mm-hmm. I mean, some people just go off and find somewhere to stay, when they're there. I'd love to have that kind of freedom. This system suggests you can't. The quickest way through the system is just to answer yes to all of those things.
And if you said no, I mean, does this stop the process? Do you have to then give
more information?
It pauses
the process.
Oh,
it pauses the process. My understanding is at that stage, if you answer no to any of those questions, you'll be taken aside and have to do an interview with one of the border control officers, which will obviously slow things down. So I was thinking, well, do I have enough money? I might not be staying where I first thought I was. And it's none of your business whether I've got medical insurance.
Well, I mean, that idea of it not being anybody's business, I mean, this is data. It's personal data.
Good point.
How is it stored and how long is it stored for?
Good point, especially since we're living in an era, particularly in the UK, where trust in data control is possibly at an all-time low. We've seen big companies, Co-op, Marks and Spencer's, attacked by hackers. Well, what we're told is that this is different because it is state-level protection. And people, I think, will probably still be a little bit doubtful because we're trusting a lot of information, a whole new generation of information, biometrics to this system. They say they've got state-level security and it's going to be looked after, and also they've got an international agreement about how it can be used only in certain very, very specified areas. It can't be used for marketing or anything like that. So we're being reassured that our data is safe, but that's what they all say.
It's a minefield, isn't it? But great to know about the changes and great to know that you got on okay, Chris, and you made it back.
They let me back in, yes.
Hurrah! Chris, thank you very much. For all the biggest consumer stories that affect you, head to itv.com/news and follow ITV News on YouTube. Until our next quick briefing, thanks for joining us.